one of the, in my opinion, most interesting area is the area of fraud. Fraud mechanisms are now using more and more AI mechanisms and techniques, pretending to be humans, pretending to be users. We used to call them bots. And we get to see them all around, where you could see fraud around credit cards and payments methods, but also in advertised and pretending to be consumers as listeners to podcasts, right? So I want to invite Gilit Saporta, as Senior Director of Fraud Analytics at DoubleVerify, the author of Practical Fraud Prevention at O'Reilly. And I want you to tell them all about those bots trying to manipulate those podcasts as audiences. The stage is yours.
And Yuval Rubin, of course.
Oh, you're together. So maybe I'll introduce you to together. Yuval Rubin, Senior Product Manager and the leader of the fraud detection team at DoubleVerify. Stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Uri, for the introduction. And hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Hey, Yuval, you and I are fraud fighters, right?
Yep.
So I have a fraud-related parenting question for you, okay? What do you do when your children want to install an app on their mobiles?
I say no, of course.
You just say no?
I tell them, go read a book or something.
He says no, he's a wonderful parent. You are a wonderful parent, but I have some bad news for you because my kids are older and saying no to them is not going to work forever, I'm afraid. What is going to sometimes work? I make my children read the reviews, and sometimes against their will. You can imagine that they don't like reading through all of them, but hopefully it's helpful enough so that they will reach a review that will enlighten them and tell them that what they're about to install is just rubbish sometimes, and that the reviews that are 5 stars can lie to them. And that they should generally think before they click on anything online, right? We know that. But here's the thing, they know and I know that the reviews are not always to be trusted, especially when it comes to apps that have a lot to gain from ads, from showing or playing ads to all of us. And since I started working with you at DoubleVerify, I learned that this is happening even more and more in apps that have video and audio content and that can play video and audio ads, just like the example here that is like an app that has its podcast built in. Is that because the ads are worth more if they are audio or video?
Correct. Their cost is much higher, which makes them more lucrative for fraudsters and bad actors.
So it can be 10 times or 20 times even higher in comparison to display ads. It's kind of like the holy grail of ad tech to be able to monetize from audio ads effectively. And that is why we're seeing in some of these apps that have their own podcasts or other types of video and audio content, we will see things like this app that reaches over 17,000 reviews, and all of them are 5 stars. That sounds wonderful, but it's obviously too good to be true, right?
Sounds like a good app to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you read the reviews, if you do, then you will see that some of them are just blunt copy-paste from what ChatGPT had to say. And in this case, ChatGPT just said, I'm sorry, but as an AI language model, I don't have the ability to leave a review for this app. But still, you can just rate it 5 stars, and you would have great reputation for this app. And even if you trust the reviews of the reviews, then this review in particular, 85 people found it useful. So that makes it even harder for Play stores to get rid of those nefarious reviews. It gets worse and worse, as always, with AI, because we see that some of the fake reviews are something that you can't pick up on unless you're using a Gen AI detection model, or if you're really trying to read through this and find out that you're seeing things like streaks of reviews by allegedly unrelated people who all magically use the same terms, like making it a breeze to find. It's not something that I would imagine seeing people who aren't just scaling up by AI, using the term over and over. But reviews can only take you so far, right? Eventually, you are going to find out for your own that the app wasn't worth your time and you would want to install it if it really isn't that good. What happens next? So fraudsters have a couple of options. One option is to just get more intrusive and make the most out of those poor users who fell for the fake reviews and installed the app. So we'll see some users being flooded with a lot of ads. In web, we call this sometimes meant for advertising. In apps, we call this, when it is intrusive and out of context, we can call it fraud. And what we would see is some apps going as far as hijacking the device altogether. And then they can play ads 24/7, even when the phone or the device seems to be off. And you will wake up in the morning and say, hey, how come my battery ran out so quickly? And why did I run out of data plans so quickly? Or why is this device heating up so fast? And these can be the results of just fraud powered by nefarious code. That's very intrusive thanks to the permissions that we all grant. But some of these apps can be very difficult to install. This is something that affects senior citizens very dramatically sometimes. I've had my own father not being able to pick up the phone because his phone was just shut down with these bad apps. And while people complain and leave bad reviews, it's nothing in comparison to all those fake reviews we've seen before. But then there's another option. Once people do manage to remove the bad apps, it doesn't mean that the apps are just out of options. They still have the ability to use AI again, and not just fake reviews in order to reach human users. They can give up on mankind altogether, and fake users, fake traffic that would listen to their podcast even if there's no one there. And Yuval, this is where your team comes in and protects the industry from this type of attack.
Right. Thank you, Gilit. So that's exactly where DoubleVerify's Fraud Lab comes into play. What we do is we protect advertisers from all sorts of fraudulent activities directly impacting their digital ad campaigns. From old practices like mobile phone farms that you can see here on the slide, to the most sophisticated fraud operations. We're there monitoring their ads, monitoring their campaigns to make sure that they actually get what they paid for and that they don't waste their budgets on non-human traffic. Now, just like AI is being used to generate fake reviews or fake content, Gilit, you covered it a minute ago, it can be leveraged to generate fake ad views through fake devices. And this falsification trend is driving a huge increase in the number of new schemes and variants we've been detecting. We see this across multiple environments, including mobile, audio, and TV streaming, which could be related to the fact that it's getting so much easier with AI to set up the infrastructure for running those operations and also to replicate them much more effectively. But the more interesting part is that AI really takes ad impression fraud to the next level, not only in terms of scale, but also in terms of sophistication and evasion techniques. Gilit, you have a smart TV at home, right?
I do.
Do you also have a smart speaker?
I was worried that you were going to ask me that because I'm a boomer and I don't, but I will get one eventually.
You should. Your kids would love it.
I know.
Anyway, those exact devices, specifically the more popular brands and models, were being spoofed as part of recent audio attacks. This clearly shows how fraudsters are leveling up their strategies as they shift from spoofing obscure legacy devices to falsifying a much wider range of very popular devices. And at the end of the thing, what they do is they know how legitimate traffic, how legitimate activity looks like, and with AI, they can optimize their fake user data to make their activity blend in much more effectively with real human traffic. And just when you think that it can't get any worse, a new fraud scheme is identified by the team and proves you wrong. This is the story of our lives, pretty much, right? And it's also the story of CycloneBot. CycloneBot is a massive video streaming falsification scheme recently uncovered by the Fraud Lab. You can see the numbers on the left side of the screen, and also that we partnered with Roku on this one to validate our findings just because it was such a sophisticated scheme. But again, the interesting part about it was the evasion techniques utilized by the fraudsters in an attempt to avoid detection. One of the mechanisms they used was spoofing of what we call continuous sessions, rather than standalone impressions or standalone ad views, to make their fraudulent traffic look very much like the activity of real human users. You can see an example on the right side of the screen here. The bars in light pink show the how legacy falsification schemes typically look like, where fraudsters rotate very quickly between devices so that each device ends up generating the same number of impressions. And right below it, you can see the CycloneBot pattern, which is much more random and is more closely related to the activity of real human users. So fraudsters these days can very effectively spoof not just the type of device I'm using, but also my actual usage patterns, which may be different from one device to another, right? The way I use my laptop is not the same as the way I use my mobile device or my TV or my smart speaker. So the ability to mimic human activity better than ever before creates greater challenges to the entire industry and highlights the importance of robust AI-driven fraud protection. Gilit, taking it back to you, that wasn't too alarming, right?
It was, I'm afraid. It was very scary. And I know that you wanted us to finish this talk today with a positive note, optimism towards the future. But I admit that as a parent, I don't like the fact that AI can just make fraudsters even lazier in the way that they can generate fake traffic, generate fake reviews, generate fake content. It must have been all over the topics discussed here today. I don't like thinking that my kids will fall for this butthead version, sorry, pardon my French, of fraud. And it is up to us eventually to identify all this fake AI-generated reviews, content, users as a key to building a better industry for all of us. If there is a silver lining, it's that the partners we talk to across the ecosystem are very interested and engaged and very open to this insight and to thinking how we can work better collaboratively about this. This is true for the advertisers, the largest brands who are whose ads are being shown on these apps, and for the agencies, platforms, play stores, and for everyone in the industry, and for professional stages like this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question from the audience? We have just like one question time. None of them. I have a question. Just let me know about the awareness, the market. I mean, if the advertisers are aware of that, is the industry aware of that, or just you know, the AI people understanding what's behind those bots?
It's becoming a lot better, and the example that Yuval showed earlier about partnerships with Roku as a major OEM Play Store in the US is something that we've found extremely effective in bringing down thousands and thousands of channels or apps that have fraud associated, and we're seeing the same with many other partners in the industry.
Cool.
There's hope.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gilit and Yuval.